It is nearly as long as the Empire State Building is tall, and in 2014 it was the launch deck for the first airstrikes against ISIS. Soon the USS George H.W. Bush will head back out to sea to face the enemy once again. Pentagon producer Lucas Tomlinson recently went on board the ship to see how the crew is preparing for the fight.
On August 8, 2014, a pair of F-18s from USS George H.W. Bush launched the first airstrikes against ISIS in northern Iraq. Now, nearly 2.5 years later, that same aircraft carrier is gearing up for a return to the fight, after being delayed in the shipyard for 6 months, leaving America without an aircraft carrier in the region until early next year. Fox News recently traveled out to Bush, 40 miles off the coast of North Carolina, to see the warship's final tune-up before setting sail early next year.
This is the military equivalent of spring training, because once we complete this at the end of December, then we'll be going forward, and it'll be real forces that will be going flying with and against.
Much has changed since Bush's last deployment to the Persian Gulf in 2014. Russia has deployed dozens of fighter jets and thousands of troops to Syria, joining Syrian and Iranian-backed forces. China has moved hundreds of missiles to the South China Sea. Officials say those missiles were deployed to China's 7 man-made islands in early 2017, putting American aircraft at risk. The ship's commanding officer says his crew will be ready to deal with China or Russia if necessary.
While we don't have any emergent or pending conflicts with them, certainly, it is fair to say that we have divergent interests in many cases. And so we need to be prepared to understand how we will react to that if necessary.
Here aboard the USS George H.W. Bush, there's about 80 jets aboard. Air Wing and sailors aboard are taking part in their final exam before taking off for the Persian Gulf and future strikes against ISIS. The U.S. military and its allies have conducted over 17,000 airstrikes against ISIS, but will have to do without the services of an aircraft carrier for now, after USS Eisenhower returned to Norfolk today, following a 7-month deployment to the Middle East. And while the focus of the U.S. military remains on ISIS,
that doesn't mean 3 months or 6 months from now that will be the priorities for our country. So we have to be ready to execute anywhere, anytime, any mission.
Aboard the ship, 18 to 22-year-old men and women are working 14 hours a day on the flight deck with very little rest. And all this is just training before deploying in the coming weeks. Shannon?
Our thanks to them and their families. Lucas, thank you so much.